that again, sorry. Oh, record. Yeah, I was going to remind you to record.
Yeah, that is your job now. Okay, Juliet's here, John's here, Phil's here, Nat's here, Stacy's here, Nick is not. Grant is here, Alan's here, George is here, Cassie's here, Casey. Don't see Casey. All right. And then we have Sidonia and Bo and Doretta and Baptiste.
Can't hear anything.
Hopefully. Okay. All right. I think I got everybody. Welcome to the first meeting of the Overlook Board for 2021-22. This is the board meeting. So we have board meetings the first Tuesday of the month, and then general meetings most months on the third Tuesday. So in 2 weeks. So I'll go ahead and put up the agenda. We can go ahead and approve that. So here's the agenda for tonight. Welcome, quick review of the meeting minutes and approval. And we got to figure out who's going to do what. The Overlook Views and figuring out what's going to go in that edition. What the general meeting presentation topics are. Directors and officers insurance, board reports, public comment, and adjourn. Do we have anything else we need to add in there? All right.
Were the meeting minutes sent out? I never saw them. At least I didn't come to the chair.
You're no longer on the list, Alex.
I can send them to you real quick.
No, I was just checking. I just wanted to make sure.
No, I had already updated the email list, so you were removed.
Oh yeah, no, I don't care about that. I just didn't see them.
She just wanted to
see them at the chair email.
All right. So let's stop sharing, and we're going to put up the minutes. Whoops. I'm going to put up the minutes there. That's not what I want. Sorry, I'm used to going on two windows, and it's really hard to work back to one window when I'm not at work. I apologize. Minutes, that's what I want. Okay. This will just take a minute or minutes. We need to approve these. This is the August 31st pseudo board meeting where we had the trivia night integrated with it. And not a whole lot to it, but we talked about the elections. We had some folks introduce themselves, and we did the trivia, and that was it. That's one. And two. September 7th, we actually had a full board meeting with these folks attending. Minutes, again, elections and trying to figure all that out. Cynthia and the IFCC and representing the board, and board reports. Anything on there that people need to change? Other than this is on the 5th, but I don't think I'm going to try to go dig that out right now. Okay. All right.
Start video.
Yeah, but I can't hear them.
Uh-oh. You can't hear me?
I can see them.
You can't hear them.
We can hear you.
Oh, right.
You tried all this.
Yes.
Can they hear you?
Well, I think they can hear me. Hi.
Yes. Hello. The third set of minutes, and then I'll jump back over the screen. September 21st, general meeting, the folks who attended. And we talked about the presentation on the 5606 North Maryland development, reimbursement for the gift cards from the trivia, the election results, and the transition projects presentation, and then the board reports. Anything we need to change in any of the three sets of minutes?
On I'm not sure which one it was, the for for the public safety report, I mentioned that the next PSAC meeting will be October 21st. And I think it said October 21st, or is it in October?
It's
At
in
any rate.
October.
Okay, and it didn't say that it was at 7 p.m. and the route to get there, but I'll mention that again tonight anyway. So
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
it doesn't necessarily need to be corrected.
Okay.
Just
Anything else to fix? Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of all 3 sets? And this is where somebody says so moved.
So moved.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
second.
Thank you. All right. Any objections? Thank you very much. That usually is the boring part of the meeting. So, so now we've done
Brad?
that. Yes, I'm listening.
Did you make note of who motioned and everything? Because I know that Marcy usually does that. And that's what we'll go over next, I'm sure, is who's doing what, but.
Right.
just wanna
George
make-
did the second, and who
did
gave me
the
the,
I did the first.
thank you. I realize now I should have done something I didn't, but that's okay. All right. So now, okay. I was gonna say, did we have anybody else join? Doesn't look like, that's okay. Thank you. I'm so good at this on 2 screens. So the selection of the board roles is out now. This is a bit tricky, but what I'm going to do is put up Alexandra's PowerPoint and share that. And so these are the positions we need to fill. These are the people. These are the 5 returning members. And one of these people, which we probably should do this first, one of the 7 new people, we need one to be a 1-year term, and everybody else would be a 2-year term. And so, because I need one person to be on the roster to finish out the remaining year of somebody else's term. Then we'd have 6 current members, which are on for another year, and 6 new members would be on for 2 years. So this is kind of weird, but I'll take volunteers. I know Nick isn't here, and we get to volunteer him if he if he happens to. Does anybody want to be a 1-year member for sure out of this list that's on the screen? And that's Nat saying yes.
It looks like Stacy's raising her hand. I was just volunteering just to get it done and not worry about it. I'm happy to do 1 or 2, whatever is
Okay.
helpful.
Stacy?
I could feel the same way, kind of neutral about it, but I'm interested in the outreach position, and I'm also happy to continue with the school liaison
Okay.
position, volunteer to do that if I chair outreach.
Okay. Nat? So you're okay with
Well,
1 year?
So
I-
it
I'm
doesn't
fine.
matter.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm fine
you
with
can run
that.
again, right? In a year.
I can run again. Yeah.
Absolutely.
This was the easiest election I've ever participated in, so
Yes.
I'm feeling good about it.
Yes, yes. Everybody, because everybody's new to the board on this group, would be eligible again for another 2
Well,
years.
Stacy has been on kind of for the
Yeah,
last year.
well,
kind of.
but were you officially on the board?
No.
Yeah,
So-
co-chair.
Co-chair, right? with
school
Sonia.
liaison.
Right, right. Okay, so Nat will be 1-year term. Okay, thank you, Nat.
If I might ask, because my memory is shot, so who is he covering for that year?
Alexandra, do you remember? Was it John?
I think it was John. Yeah,
Yeah.
John left pretty early.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, so we've got that done. And we'll just do that. Okay. All right, that's the easy one. Now the tougher one. Okay, so we need a chair, a vice chair, a secretary, and a treasurer. Currently,
First, you need a chair. The chair then asks for the other members. The chair also picks the committee
okay,
leads
uh,
with approval of the board.
and just at this point, I'm treasurer for what that's worth. And I'm happy to do that again. I really don't want to be chair. I've done that before. And it's a lot easier in person or with two screens.
You're really selling it, Brad.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so the chair and the vice chair, we've had co-chairs before too. And they kind of just take turns, and the vice chair basically backs up the chair when the chair isn't there, or they share duties, and some do one part and some do another part, and it's kind of totally up to those folks. But what the chair is, they do represent the neighborhood as far as kind of vocalizing our official positions. Occasionally we've had requests from the media to do interviews or something like that. But the other part of it is to run the meetings. And then also the chair attends what's called the North Portland Chairs Meeting, which happens, I believe, usually the first Monday still. And that's where those groups, the chairs, get together and figure out what's going on and everything. It just so happens to back up to our meeting often. So the chair runs the meetings, put the agenda together. They're going to be a check signer. And right now, Alexandra and I are the two check signers, because Chris Trayball, who's also left for the East Coast-ish, was the other check signer. So somebody will need to become a check signer. It's not a big deal these days, but it needs to be done. The secretary, all they do is take the minutes of the meeting, which is a relatively straightforward task. Minutes just are actually a list of the actions that occurred and the people that attended. You don't have to put your name down to attend these meetings, but we do have in the bylaws a rule that if you want to vote in an election, that you have to attended a meeting in the last 6 months, is the way it reads right now. So secretary, that's all they do, is they take the minutes and then send them out and have it reviewed, and then we get it approved at the next meeting. You got to have somebody hopefully there most of the time to do these roles. And then the treasurer does the finances and does the paperwork. So those are those 4 positions. And then we have all the other ones down here, of which these don't have to be filled, but these do. From a legal standpoint, in order to maintain our 501c3 status, we got to have these things.
And you have to fill the grievance committee. It's required.
And a grievance, yes, thank you. And the grievance committee, that's one person, and I will touch on that in a few. Thanks, Alexandra. So I would like to know if there are, who's interested in being chair of the neighborhood association for the next year. And again, this can be a shared position, but we need some takers. And this is kind of an awkward one because a lot of our new folks, which it's a great new group, you just knew. That doesn't mean you can't run a meeting. So, and I don't want to do it.
And whoever,
And-
if everybody's afraid, I'm happy to help.
Thank you, Alexandra. Really
So-
appreciate that.
Yeah, I can guide you through and help with the stuff for the first month or two. So, but yeah, it takes some work. I agree with Brad. I would suggest having a chair and a co-chair that share the responsibilities. You know, maybe one is responsible for the general meetings, another one's responsible for the board meetings. It makes it a little bit easier. It takes a lot of effort. So like I said, I'm willing to help. So if anybody is interested in that position, and we'd love to have you.
This is where you all clamor. And Doretta, are you still there?
Yes.
So what happens if there is nobody's designated as a chair?
Well, that's a problem. You have to have a chair, as you said.
And oh, would you introduce yourself, Doretta? Sorry about that.
Yeah. Whoops. Hi, Doretta Schrock from North Portland Neighborhood Services. That's the coalition office that helps support neighborhood associations and other community groups in North Portland.
Thank you.
So Brad or Cassie, would either of you be able to do the vice chair or interested in the vice chair? You guys have the most knowledge from the last year.
I can probably do the vice chair. I just don't feel like I have the time to do the chair as well as the other things that I'm currently doing. If someone wants to take the other, what I do currently is the communications. So I do the WordPress every week and update the newsletters, as well as kind of manage the process of putting together the newsletter as far as coordinating stories and coordinating the getting all of the stories that we've written to the designer, who is now going to be Bo, who's on the call. So that's what I've currently been doing and was planning on doing again. But if someone wants to do that or help with that, that's also helpful.
Yeah, so maybe it's because there are a bunch of new people, obviously, that, one suggestion is doing vice chair and because you're great at the communications piece. I wouldn't stop doing that, but having somebody help would be beneficial.
It would be super beneficial, but
I'd really like to help Cassie, and I think, if I take over the outreach position, I can help with the weekly newsletter or email blast and help admin the Facebook page. And I know we had tabled the discussion about an Instagram account, but hopefully we can talk about that at the next board meeting. I'd like to use those platforms for outreach. So yeah, I'd like to help Cassie with those things if it would relieve some of her responsibilities so she could take on a higher labor intensive role.
Great. So now, is there anybody else who would be interested in the chair position, given that Cassie and I can help? Any of the new folks?
Again, we can elect Nick because he's not here, but that's really not a very nice thing to do. And I think Nick would do a fine job. I don't want to,
no, he really would. So I'm tempted to elect him because he didn't show up.
But I think that is, I did ask him if he wanted to be the transportation chair, and I have not heard back from him.
Okay.
And these we don't necessarily have to figure out today.
Yeah.
These we do.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like, this is the dessert down here, and this is the dinner. The dinner can be just fine. So
I don't know, if nobody, we can reach out to Nick. I guess Doretta, the question would be, can you continue the meeting without a chair?
we have a pro temp or whatever it would be called.
Yeah, good.
Chair for the meeting. I think that we have done that before, where we actually rotated it between all 12 members or something like that.
Yeah, and I mean, if you have a vice chair, just designate that person to run the meeting, and Or, and that person could delegate that to you even, Brad. So as long as you've got someone who's technically in charge
Is
of
there,
running the meeting.
sorry, I wasn't able to attend the meeting on the 21st, selfishly, because it was my birthday. But is there like a set of goals that the association has? I mean, certainly the role of chair is key, but I'm curious if there's a guiding vision or a set of objectives that we have that's been agreed to, and sort of, I mean, so I can help run meetings. I can do a lot of organizational stuff, but I'm just curious, like what are we trying to do?
Some of that is, I was going to see if I can pull up. That's not what I want. Now, are you still seeing, what are you seeing at this point on my screen? I hate to ask that. but-
OKNA board position.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing this and start sharing this. This it indirectly answers your question. This is what the folks on the board are doing. So what the 4 officers do, and then also the general roles and responsibilities.
Yeah.
But honestly, a lot of this it depends on what we want to do as a neighborhood organization. So a lot of it is self-driven. We do try to not get too involved in partisan disputes, because we know that there's often a lot of folks on both sides of those things.
Says
So-
the man wearing a Beavers shirt.
Yeah, it was a good, it was a very nice Saturday night. So,
Okay.
but
The bylaws also have the overarching purpose of Overlook Neighborhood Association. It's like in the very first paragraph, I think. It's
Yeah.
as Brad says, very broad. but-
Sure.
and it's thank you. That is a good place to go, actually. That's the part that's a little.
Yeah, I read the roles. That was a really helpful document, Alexandra, that you circulated. But I'm just curious if there, and again, forgive me for not being at previous meetings, but like what the hot button themes or issues of the association are. Like what's kind of animating everyone to even be here in the first place.
I think part of it is a desire to help the neighborhood improve, to communicate and get the word out about issues that are affecting us, whether that's positively or negatively. It has been all over the place, but there often have been plenty of hot button issues. Right now, it happens to be, I think, pandemic driven in part, but and also to provide a forum so we make sure that we know kind of what's going on in the neighborhood. Back in the day, it used to be liquor licenses, and so if we had a place that was misbehaving, we might, ask them to come and present about it. I think the developer that came, you did miss that one, which they came, and I think the preface that I'd suggest going forward is, when developers, and usually it's the architect is coming to make those presentations, they don't make the zoning rules. So, and this was a very unique presentation last time, in that the people who were living in the house that's going to be torn down came to the meeting, and so they expressed their concerns. And even though it was intense, everybody behaved themselves. But at the same time, there isn't much that, it's zoned for that. So it's more of, you're making comments about hopefully things you can do something about, the architecture of the building. If they need a variance, things like that. It could be parks, and we're gonna work on promoting the master plan for that park. Light rail, we were heavily involved with that. Some of the Greeley design. and schools, we promoted
Yeah,
those things. So
yeah, helpful.
hopefully that's,
Are there any ways that we can be involved in zoning?
yes, but to change zoning is challenging, especially to down zone. But it is possible. And certainly we can advocate a position such as, let's say, we'd like to have some on-street, off-street parking in projects that are going up. Let's say that's been a point of contention. But we also, if we're going to make zoning changes, we got to be able to back it up and convince the city to change it. There's a challenge. So
Yeah, I mean, I definitely understand that it's a challenge, but I was just wondering if it was in the realm of possibility to be able to influence zoning, maybe on, different design standards, not even necessarily up zoning or down zoning.
no,
But
okay. Mhm.
yeah, but
And I think part of that is the education piece as people come around and move and things like that. That what a design standard is.
right.
Those kind of things. Okay, so where did we end up? Going back to
I have a quick question, Brad.
absolutely.
As we were talking about like a greater scope of the group, really, I started attending meetings more regularly after the pandemic started. And I'm just wondering if prior to that, if the neighborhood association would plan or sponsor community events.
Certainly could, and we have done that. I think mostly the neighborhood cleanups have been part of it, and we've done some. The farmers market, we did some work there back when we had one down at Kaiser. We've helped with a number of things over the years. So some of this is what we make of it, and hopefully coming, I think, out of a pandemic, as we thought we all were in the clear a few months ago, but now we're headed the right direction again. Hopefully there'll be actually opportunities that will come up for us to support things that are already happening or to do something ourselves.
Great.
But we need a chair. So it sounds like Cassie would be willing to be vice chair. I'd take treasurer. There's a fair amount. There's a fair amount of to do there, and I do it for another. Happy to do it for one more year.
It sounds like we need to, I mean, are you acting as the temporary chair?
Does
the group agree to that?
You want to agree that I'll be chair for this meeting?
Can we make a motion? Sorry,
there-
I'm taking over.
Yeah, that's okay.
I will shut up now.
You can make a motion, Alexandra.
I can't help myself. I can't make a motion. I'm not on the board.
Okay.
Okay, so is no one else willing to step up? Because Brad doesn't want to do it. Is there anyone else? Stacy, you seem like you would be a fantastic chair. You're already deeply involved in so many spots. Maybe you should just take the mantle of leadership and pass on outreach to someone else. Oh, you're on mute. So that sounds like you've accepted my proposal.
I'd really like to be involved in outreach, and if someone's willing to help me chair, I'd be happy to do both. I'd like to see more attendance at the meetings and more involvement, and I think that's my primary interest over running meetings. I'd like to see more people attend meetings. So I suppose I could do both.
I can help you. I mean, my hesitation is I'm brand new to this. This is my first meeting. I've already been, I'm already a lame duck as a 1 year person. But the reason that I joined this was because I have 2 small kids, and I was just noticing how many parents were not sending their kids to our elementary school, the Beach Elementary School. And I found it such a a bummer, you know, because it's like a quick walk from the house and it seems like a cool environment. And then, you know, stuff like the playground, you know, could we improve that? So very kid focused for me, selfishly. And then of course, homelessness, driving up and down Greeley is just, it's like Mad Max. I mean, it's just insane. So what can we do to help? But what can we also do to, like, you know, move beyond this? Those are the things that I'm personally motivated by. So I'm just curious. I haven't met any of you. I don't really know. Helping to run a meeting, I can do any day, but it's more like, what do we want to actually do?
And in my honest opinion, I'm really happy to hear that, but I also want to get this part done, and then we can kind of, what I think is going to happen is we're going to spend probably the November board meeting figuring out what we want to do for the year, is my guess. But we've kind of got two fairly significant things to do. One is get the Overlook Views articles submitted by the end of the month, somewhere around there, Alan.
Yeah, you have to submit them the third week of October.
Yeah, so we've got a couple weeks to write or find people to write articles for the Overlook Views, which a lot of people, which is kind of our voice that's distributed to everybody in the neighborhood. And then figure out what's going on for the next meeting.
Nat, would you be open to co-chair and we can alternate running meetings every other meeting?
Or sharing of some sort, whether it's because somebody might be out of town one meeting and you trade off and things like that.
Yes, reluctantly. My wife told me not to commit to anything before this meeting, but no one else is willing to take off their mute button or go on video. So yes, absolutely, Stacy, let's do it.
Okay, thank you. Great.
I just want to call out that my video is actually broken. I'm not hiding. I just have an ancient computer that the camera doesn't work anymore.
Okay, so I'm gonna write some names in here. I don't take it personally if I screw this up, just call me out. And if you can't see it, that's your own problem at this point. We need a secretary. Got to have somebody take the
You
minutes.
have to vote on these, Brad.
Right, I know.
Okay.
I know.
And technically the bylaws say the chair is supposed to pick these, but go ahead.
Is there anybody who would be interested in being secretary? It's not difficult work. So it's a relatively easy role. But I don't want to do both. It would be nice. So we got Juliet, John, Phil, Grant, Casey. Did Casey ever make it?
If nobody else is doing it, I'll do it.
Okay. So at this moment, the way the bylaws read is that we need to elect the chair. In this case, it would be co-chairs. So I would nominate Nat and Stacy to be co-chairs of the Overlook Neighborhood Association for the next year. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Would anybody else like to go for those positions? That position, sorry. Okay. Hearing none, I'm going to close the nominations then. And by acclamation, we have new chairs of the Overlook Neighborhood Association. Thank you, Nat. Thank you, Stacy. Really appreciate it. It is now, for Alexander's comment, up to you to take over getting these three people to accept their positions. Who would like to run that part?
Okay, so the bylaws require that the chair or co-chairs appoint the rest of the positions, or that they are elected. Sorry, Alexandra, if I didn't hear that.
Yeah, you, you nominate and then the board approves. I
Fantastic.
mean, but you can do it in a way that it's like, is anybody interested in this, right? You don't say, hey, you're doing it, right?
Okay, so it sounds like we did that. So Cassie has agreed to serve in her role both as WordPress master as well as our vice chair. So I guess all in favor. Can I ask all in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
I
Those opposed?
Aye.
Okay, hearing none. Congratulations, Cassie, you are VC. John has kindly agreed to self-nominate as our secretary, keep us on track, keep a written record of what occurs here. All in favor of John becoming secretary of the neighborhood association, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none. John, congrats. And Brad, it sounds like you are willing to continue to manage the books, keep us on track, clean
Yep.
paper.
Yes.
How much money does this neighborhood association have? What's our annual budget?
We don't have a budget. That's one of the things probably to work on. What we have is about 20-something thousand dollars in the bank, of which some of that is dedicated money for particular uses. There's
Okay.
probably about, I think, 15 left after
Okay.
that.
Great. Sounds like Brad is well qualified to be treasurer. All in favor of Brad continuing in that role, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Great. Brad, thank you so much and congrats. Moving on, it sounds like on the committee level, the number one required position is the grievances position, which
And
sounds to me, yep,
No, it's fine. I'll put it up on the board what it is.
perfect.
Grievance. Go back to this. Okay. Where are you? There you go.
Hey, Carrie, can you hear us all now?
I can actually.
Right on.
By the way, guys, sorry, can you hear me?
Yep.
I was speaking. I'm on my backup computer. Sorry about that. Sorry, I haven't been fully participatory. My name's Phil, actually. Carrie's my wife. This is her feed.
Hey, Phil,
Got it.
sorry.
I will. No, it's all good. I'm sorry, guys. What? So does that mean that I get to volunteer for the grievance committee? It sounds pretty bad, but I'll do it. Yeah, I'll volunteer for the grievance committee. Yeah, bring them to me. Maybe that's my, initiation into the group. I'll do it.
Fantastic.
Sounds
In
more.
4 years, we've never had a grievance, knock on wood, so
Yeah, right.
grievance committee has not done anything. Now,
I'm a
you do have to
salesperson
pick
for a
two-
trucking company, so I all I do is take grievances. So I am called.
You
Yes.
got it, okay. You do have to pick two external, so there have to be two people on the grievance committee that are outside of Overlook Neighborhood Association Board.
Do I have to
So we
recruit
will-
them?
You will have to recruit those, yep. And then the board votes on that too.
I can take one of those positions.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not on the board either. I can volunteer as well.
There you go.
Okay, so that was, I heard.
And was that Marcy?
Yeah, that's Marcy.
Okay.
Is that Cupcake McFastlane?
Yeah.
Yes. Marcy McFarland.
Okay.
Who do I follow up with on the specifics of what I just did?
That'll be either Stacy or me as co-chairs, though we have no idea what you actually have to do. No, I think Alexandra can help
It's
us
fine.
along.
I get the idea in general. I've read the bylaws, and I'm wondering, specifically, is there an email or, I'm prepared though, in general. Alexander,
I think we did put it into that document that we had that described all the different committees.
okay,
I'm pretty
I'll
sure
go
it's-
over it again. Sure, no problem.
But yeah, if not, it's just responding if the Overlook Neighborhood Association does something that the community is upset about, then they can file a complaint. And then you have to respond to the complaint. So but like I said, it has never happened yet, knock on wood.
Right.
No
And
problem.
sometimes
If this helps us, move on through the meeting, then I'm happy to, as a board member, do this. That's all good.
Perfect.
Yep.
It's
Great.
funny. I thought the grievance committee was about airing grievances by residents about what's going on in the neighborhood.
Me too.
Maybe we can change the bylaws and make
I
it
was also
focus on that.
prepared to be the land use person. That's kind of what I'm interested in, and that's what a lot of the grievances are technically about. The last meeting, those were the grievances. So if we want to move on to that portion, that's what I'd like to do. I don't know.
so
Is that okay, Brad? Can we?
yeah,
move to
we
that?
just we've got our 3 people, or is there any?
So is Baptiste and
Marcy?
Marcy.
And then
Just do it.
Phil.
Baptiste and Marcy, thank you guys. I'll write these.
Yep.
I would do
and-
a vote on that, just to make it official.
Cool. So we do have to vote on that, you said?
Yeah. Because they're appointed. So the board appoints them. So
Okay.
I move that Phil, Marcy, and Baptiste serve on the grievance committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Fantastic. Congratulations. Thank you all. Thanks, Phil, Baptiste, and Marcy. And maybe we can move on then to the other positions. Is that okay to keep rolling?
Sure.
Great. So Phil expressed an interest in airing grievances related to land use and land use generally. Is there anyone else who's interested in that particular position?
I'm just going to put the names up here as we go.
Okay.
I don't know why I picked that. Just in reviewing them, my professional background is in transportation, and I kind of know a little bit about parks and land use. Maybe I would have something to contribute to sustainability. Probably not some of the other things on the list.
I think
Yeah.
I'd like to do parks if that's
Okay,
open.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
Oh.
sure. I
I'm
don't know
actually-
anything about any of it really, so I'm not sure.
Sorry, who spoke up wanting to do parks?
John.
I'm actually
Done.
interested in doing parks too.
Okay.
And
John and Juliet, you guys are both interested in parks?
I've been working with Cynthia, who held the position previously, and she and I are planning a meeting to get together and exchange information that she's been working on previously.
Okay. That sounds great. And we can have more than one person on these. These are committees, right? So we can, does that sound
Absolutely.
good?
Yeah.
John
We
and
can have
Juliet,
coach-
you guys work together?
Yeah,
Perfect.
we can have co-chairs. We can do kind of whatever we want on this part of it.
Can you guys investigate why the city of Portland made a nature park in the sledding area of Overlook
Yeah,
Park?
I
I'm
was
particularly incensed by that, and so are my children.
Yes, that is concerning.
It's a little too
And
late. I
also,
guess.
my kids do go to beach school, by the way.
Okay, we'll have to get coffee or a beer and chat about
Sure.
that. That sounds
Sure.
cool. Okay, so land use, Phil, you're on it. You said maybe can we put Phil's name by sustainability and transportation as well, just as a placeholder?
Sure, that's fine. I don't know what I have to offer, but I'm willing to learn. Transportation, probably more than, what was the other one? Sustainability?
Uh-huh.
Put my name by all of those. I mean, I want to learn, I want to contribute, however.
Yeah.
I've been sharing sustainability for the last couple of months and happy to continue with that.
And
That's
that
Grant.
was
Grant.
Grant. Thank you, Grant.
Okay.
And this is Brian Yarn, and I've been doing land use, and I'm happy to co-do it with Phil.
I don't know anything, Brian. I know a little.
I'm
enough to
sure
be
you
dangerous,
do.
so- No, not really. So yeah, thanks, Brian. Yes,
That'd be fun.
let's meet if we live in the same neighborhood. That's half the
Yeah.
battle.
Yeah.
So who has been on task for our homeless update?
That's been Casey Boggs. And he is not here tonight, but I'm pretty sure that he is willing to continue it, considering he was just on TV, unless he's.
Is there anyone else in this group who's interested in participating on that particular committee? Okay, you can put maybe my name on there because I think that's one of the most important issues.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, comms, Stacy will be leading that with support from Cassie.
I think that's the other way around.
Cassie will be
Okay.
leading that with support from our co-chair, Stacy.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Can I also just ask, is there any, because there's so many new people, is there anyone that has more technical experience with websites, such as really back end things with, because I do WordPress, but so if anyone has experience with HTML or coding or anything like that, or is really comfortable in those areas, let me know. And Stacy, if you do have that experience.
I
Hey,
don't,
Cassie,
but I know
I've been on the, this is Bo, but I have all that experience. That's why I joined the board last year, but no longer on the board. So I would be willing to help.
Oops.
Oh, aren't you the trivia master? Or you were at the bottle shop?
Yeah.
And he's producing putting the Overlook Views together.
Okay.
Going forward.
Perfect. What about safety?
Hi, this is Sidonia. Curious on, so I know the school liaison was a volunteer position. So are all these committees just volunteer, or do you have to be in the board to do them?
So you technically don't, it's helpful to have somebody from the board on it. You don't have to, but it is helpful. So,
okay, I'm happy to do the school liaison.
Yeah.
And then outreach, and then Stacy, also we can work together on those
Yeah,
two
that sounds
if
great.
you want.
like you've been doing.
Yep.
All right. Anybody else interested on schools? And if I remember right, Stacy, you were connected to Beach, and Sidonia was connected to the Ivy School.
The opposite.
Oh,
My son
whoops! I'm sorry.
doesn't- Yeah, my son does not attend Ivy any longer, but I
Okay.
still have some connections there.
She has the contacts.
I have
The
contacts.
PTA contacts. She's well connected.
Yeah, you can also add my name to the schools. Thank you.
I could do it as well.
All right. What about safety? We don't have any safety issues. Let's move on. I wish. George, you've been doing that. Are you
Yep.
still interested?
I would like to continue on in that capacity, as limited as I may be. I won't, but yes.
I'd
And then
love
Mark?
to join you, George, on the safety committee.
Okay.
And
Perfect.
who was that?
Good
Was that
deal.
Baptiste?
Baptiste. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. And so grants, cleanup, and outreach are all red.
Oh,
Okay.
I don't know, Alexandra. Why are they red?
Because we didn't have anybody in those positions, but they were positions that people had said they had interest in. So
Okay.
they were just added. I added them in red.
Did you, and
Some years we don't have
Alexandra and Brad, was it your experience that the structure we have with these various committees and the amount works, or it feels dispersed. It feels almost like too much for how many people we have.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. I think people usually sign up for what they're interested in. But yeah, you don't have to fill all the committees.
The other thing is this is just kind of the leadership connection here. Somebody else can do literally all the work and you're just helping report back to the board and keep folks advised of what's going on. Sometimes it's that, sometimes it's writing newsletter articles and things like that. It just depends on what people want to do.
We can recruit non-board member
Absolutely.
volunteer residents to participate in these committees also, which I would love to see.
Yep.
Okay. Grants and cleanup. So grants is soliciting grant money and grant funding.
Grants was on there because we gave away a lot of money last year, but we didn't have a process. So the first organization that came and asked for money, we gave it to. I think there should be a process in place to be able to vet a bunch of different grants. We also get money, and I don't know, Doretta, if you're still on, but we have gotten money in the past from PIR, and we have gone through a grant process for that. Of course, COVID put a stop to that, but I don't know, maybe if we're going to be, I think we're going to be getting money again, Doretta.
Well, we should be getting a lot of money next year if NASCAR's coming to town.
Yeah,
or
giveaway.
Maybe 2 years from now, right?
Yeah, so just having a committee in place that can say, what are we looking forward to, what process do we want to have in place to give away this money? Like what guardrails do we want to put on it? You don't need it now if you're not giving away any money, but it's just something to think about.
Okay. Yeah, it seems like at least whoever's signing checks, either Stacy or I should participate in that. Cleanup. Is anyone interested in leading a cleanup committee?
I can do that if we're okay with like solve cleanups.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
That sounds great.
And
I
who was
just did
that?
one. That's me, Sidonia. Sorry, I'm hanging
thank
stuff
you.
up on the wall.
And I know there was a local bar, I think Advice Boot, that was interested in offering a trashy hour for volunteers, for cleanup volunteers in the neighborhood.
Yeah, because I think Mayfly does it up in Kenton, which is kind of cool.
So I just did one for work and it's really super easy with Solve right now. So it's more of just like, when's a good time? And I'm like connected with their coordinators and stuff there.
Awesome. Sounds great. Okay. So do we leave grants open or do we need to fill that?
You don't have to fill
We
it.
could probably leave it open and then we could just, if something comes up, we can still decide as a board. We don't necessarily need to have someone manage it if no one's volunteering.
Right.
Awesome.
I mean, Brad, should you have some oversight to that also, since you're the treasurer?
Yeah. But yeah, there's nothing to do yet. Not yet. Okay.
Okay. Thanks everyone for stepping up and volunteering to participate and do something. Certainly appreciate it. So it seems like we can move on to our next agenda item if that seems okay to you, Brad.
Absolutely. And by the way, in case you didn't know, Alan coordinates the delivery of the Overlook Views to the entire neighborhood. So that's been his baby. All right, let me pull up agenda. And I truly say thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it. So I'll talk about this part. So Overlook Views. So we need to figure out what articles we're going to have for the November edition, which we talked about, looking for articles in the next couple of weeks. Typically, when we get to the next board meeting, so November's first Tuesday board meeting, that's when we would actually have the copy ready to look at. Those timelines are soft. We don't have a particular slot. I don't think that if we got to the publisher 3 days late, they don't care. They just fit it in whenever, because we're not that big of a job. The Pamplin Media does our publishing, by the way, and we put this out 4 times a year. So we need to figure out some articles to write for it. And sometimes we've got just oodles of things coming out our ears, and then sometimes it's very quiet.
We have always, at this issue, introduced the new board. So we always have done like a photo, taken photos of everybody, and then done a quick bio. So I think that would be a good thing to do.
If you need to see previous editions, they are available, I think, on the overlookneighborhood.org
Yes, they
website. Do you want selfies, or we want something? We want pictures that are a little more even or something. I don't know.
I think if everyone can just send me a photo that they consider to be headshot-ish. I don't think it by no means does it need to be a professional headshot, but something that looks nice with just you in the frame would be great. And then we can use that. And then also bios. So like Alexandra said, if you could send a short bio of yourself and maybe why you wanted to join the board, that will be great. And we can include that as well.
Great.
Okay.
What else to put in there? And this will be delivered mid-November. So there's your timeline. We're thinking of the winter holidays and into January. It's hard to put anything in there for January. So it typically is maybe stuff that's gone on recently around here.
Brad, when is the, sorry, I just interrupted you.
So go.
When is the next issue? When does that get distributed, the following one?
It's usually about every 3 months. So I think that would be mid-February.
It'll be February for the summer one.
Or the
spring one.
Spring.
Okay.
It could be summer.
About,
Yeah.
some school topics and information about open houses and lotteries, especially the Spanish immersion program at Beach, which it may seem a little too early to talk about, but then it would be too late for the spring issue.
Okay.
And Sidonia and I can work on an article about any kind of holiday fundraisers that the schools are having, and openings for preschools and daycares. There's a new, well, actually, it's not a new preschool, but it's a preschool that exists in Arbor Lodge, which is relocating to the Overlook neighborhood.
What's that one?
It is, I can't remember the name now. It's a home-based French immersion preschool. I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of it. It exists on Atlantic Ave right now in Arbor Lodge. They're going to be taking over the space that Smarty Pants was formerly in. Right
Stacy,
behind,
it's called Blooming
Baker.
Rose Preschool.
Yes. So they're going to go into the space that Smarty Pants was in. And I'd love to see some more information about schools that are not necessarily in Overlook, but that our Overlook kids go to as far as middle and high school. Maybe Juliet, would you like to speak to that? You have a student at Ockley Green now?
I do, but we actually just took him out of Ockley Green.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
Yeah, my son has Down syndrome, and he was not adjusting well to middle school. So we're trying to find a different school situation for him now that's a little bit smaller, I think would work for him. So I still can, I still know people over there at Ackley that I could talk to.
I know we've really hyper focused on elementary and preschool here, so I'd love to see some more information
Mhm.
about where Overlook middle and high school students are venturing out to.
The high schools are Jefferson and Roosevelt.
Mhm.
There's a choice. And Ackley Green, yeah, and I don't know, but I don't know about any other middle schools except for Ivy in the neighborhood.
So if you'd like to work with me and Sidonia on that
Sure.
article, we could pull together an article about all school options and activities.
Sure. I also have another idea for an article that I don't know when would be appropriate to do it, but my kids and I have actually been delivering the Overlook Views for a couple of years now. And I always thought it would be really fun to like profile some of the people that help deliver the paper, because it's a really fun job.
Yeah, I love that.
It's a great
That's
idea.
cool.
Alan, just curious, how are you full up on delivery folks, or you need more, by the way?
Yeah, and sometimes I don't need any, and then sometimes I need 2 or 3. So
Okay.
I have names that I've got on file.
So it'd be an opportunity, I think, to, throw in a tagline if you're interested.
You've seen every newsletter.
Yep.
It says contact me if you want to think about delivering.
Perfect.
It's my name and my email address in it.
Juliet, would you want to write something up about your kids and that experience?
Yeah, I could do that.
Okay, great. I will put your name next to that. And Stacy, I have you down for some school items. I know we mentioned a bunch though, so I don't know if you want to narrow it down to 1 or 2, or if you're planning on tackling all of those. So just
Possibly between Sidonia and me, we can tackle it all.
okay.
Sidonia, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that we could get a lot of information. The other thing is maybe I think that could we possibly, I'm kind of like talking as I'm thinking, but like maybe like a call to join like the board, like, or maybe like a little blurb about the history of the board and like major accomplishments now that we have like the new board, and like encourage / invite like people to join, because I know that I found out about the association by the news or by the paper.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can always plug what was in the previous meetings. These are the kind of topics we talk about, but we often don't know what those topics are until way after the print deadline. So
Maybe like more like historical, like I don't have that information, but I'm happy to like kind of outline what I think would be interesting and maybe like pull on some heartstrings to get people to join. Like major accomplishments, like maybe like some record number of like years on the board, like things like that. Do we have that information?
take a little bit of work. Alan would probably be it. Alan and
Maybe.
Alan and before that, Alan's mom, who was on here for a while too.
You write about what we've done for the last 20 years, 10 years, or what?
That would be really cool, I think. Maybe an Alan interview. The man behind the deliveries.
Cool. So are there any gaps in the topics for the November edition, or do we feel like we have what we need?
I think typically Casey also updates on homeless at every newspaper, so I can reach out to him on that.
Yep.
We have schools covered, have some interesting other topics. Sidonia, would you want to do the interview of Alan and kind of ask him some questions, and we can do it in a question and answer format?
Alan, if you are game, I think that would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've got all kinds of, I can go back 20 years if you want.
This is going
I
to be
would
good.
like that.
I'm trying to think if there's any other topics that are more for the information of the neighborhood around that time. So I think that we normally do a holiday get together. I know last year in the newsletter we canceled that. So I don't know if we have thoughts on that for this year.
Typically that is taking place in December in place of our general meeting, because who wants to have a general meeting on December 21st? It's not going to happen. But we also can move that to the Friday night or Sunday night or whatever we want to do. Having said all that, I'm a little nervous right now about where we're going to be with gatherings. I think it looks good, but if we say that, then bad things will happen. So
does the Overlook House do anything like, or is it normally just the association?
I think
as
they
far
used to
as
have Santa.
you mean as far as their events, or as far as that December gathering?
Yeah, like a holiday event.
We've had it there before, and we get to use that free of charge, right, Alan?
What?
The Overlook House.
Yeah, but they're still not all the way open yet. So.
Right. Yes, agreed. But that is an easy site to do. We've also had it at Daybreak Co-housing on Killingsworth. We've had it.
You've got the new apartments building down there too. I forget the name of it.
Oh, Arlo.
Yeah.
Up just feet outside the neighborhood, things like that. I think we probably, for the paper, I don't know if we can nail anything down. That's a little bit gutsy.
Yeah, I agree. So do we want to list something about it being canceled? Do we want to decide on that now? Or do we just want to leave it blank?
I'd do if we put a stay tuned in there, and we'll announce it on the e-blast, and here's how you get the e-blast. There's your opportunity, Cassie. Because if I remember, the reason I say that for everybody else is I think there's 150 or 200 addresses in the e-blast that get that weekly, and yet we're delivering to 3,000
households,
30 something, 3,000 something households, 3,900 households, and we have an e-list of 150 to 200, which I think is not very good.
Well,
I think the quality is great. I'd just like to see it go to more people in the neighborhood. You said 600?
600 something, yeah.
Oh, that's better.
Yeah.
So that is good.
So I would suggest something on transportation if there's anything, and also sustainability. We haven't put anything on sustainability in a long time. I don't know if Grant, if you have anything. But I think those are important topics.
The Zenith.
Yeah.
Zenith, maybe. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we could just mention kind of how that ended up, since it did go the way we wanted it to. I can kind of check in and see if there's any updates, but I think probably not anything like super recent with that. We had a resident ask about getting a trash can put on Willamette, kind of by the dog bowl. And Portland's currently expanding their trash can placement, so we might actually get one, but I don't know for sure yet. That's the other kind of random thing.
Oh, that actually is good.
on the homeless update, Cassie, you said you're going to talk to Nick. I think it would be worthwhile if there was some mention of the 5 proposed sites within the Overlook neighborhood that make up, I think the 70 overall that the city had designated, of which they will select 5 for new permanent or semi-permanent villages. And so I think it would be a good thing to share.
Get an update of that. 3 have been announced. The Expo Center is going to be the 4th, is the assumption, and then there's 2 more to go across the city.
Yeah.
So do articles need to be written by a board member or?
No.
So Bo and I have been, we're in the very early planning stages for some business promotions for a holiday sort of stamp book starting in late November. So this is through Shop Overlook, the business association group for Overlook. So maybe just a short blurb about that coming up.
I think that personally, I think that's great. I think even though it's not our job specifically to be Shop Overlook's, mouthpiece, I think it's a great opportunity to get the word out and help our local businesses. I hope that didn't come off wrong, but you know what I mean? Okay, thank you.
How would I describe that? Like a holiday?
What'd you call it? A stamp
We
book?
haven't titled it yet. We haven't really named it yet. I know some neighborhood associations call it a holiday stroll and they designate a particular night, but we've not really been wanting to designate a particular night to avoid people crowding. So our idea is to have it span over several weeks. And if you do business at a certain business, you get a stamp in a book or on a card, and then you get entered to win gift cards that are donated by local businesses. I know Kenton does one with like a wooden nickel, I think, and St. John's does like a passport stamp book.
Okay.
So we're throwing some ideas around right now. And
yeah, that's great.
Cool.
You think you can get it solidified in a couple of weeks?
Bo, are you still there? Bo?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, we can get it done.
Okay. I think that sounds great. Alexandra asked about transportation. I don't think there's anything coming as far as transportation specifically, other than Nick is attending a transportation meeting tonight. So I can ask him about that.
What's the deadline for the bio and photograph?
I think we should aim to get something. I'm going to look at a calendar really quick. Our next meeting, the general meeting, is on the 19th. Is that right?
Correct.
So we would want to have things all put together. I'm trying to think. I don't think that we would be able to get it like put together. So Bo, how much time do you need to get things built from a design standpoint?
I would say probably being that this is the first one, 3 or 4 days, because I am completely redesigning the entire format of the paper versus what we've had for years and years and years and years, just kind of out of date and out of touch. So I would say at least 3 or 4 days for this one.
So is 2 weeks good enough? For now, the 19th?
Well, what I'm asking is, I'm trying to build a work back schedule in my head really quick. So Alan, what date do we need to get final files to them by, did you say?
We can send it in to Dawn on the last week of October, and then I'll get it on the first week in November.
Send it in the last week of October.
Yeah.
So if we have kind of final stories, we can review the copy and get that approved by the board at the next one, and that will give Bo a full week.
Yeah, I would say like the 25th. Oh, wait, hold on. We're submitting on the 29th, right?
Yep, that's good.
So Cassie, what was you thinking?
Well, I was thinking if we can get final stories by the 19th to review as a board, but
Yeah.
I don't think that's enough time realistically. So we just might not be able to approve before printing.
Well, we can always approve via email.
Yeah. So I would say final stories by the 20th, and then I can review them and reach out with any questions and finalize hopefully by the 22nd, and that will give you a full week. So
Yeah, because if I have it by then, I'm assuming I will probably be able to send out a mock-up on the 27th at the earliest, 28th at the latest, and then we can email it to the board
that would be
and then
great.
have a few days to make. Well, actually, the 26th is probably when I would have it done. So we would have at least 2/3 days to review.
So to review, if everyone can get me their bios and stories by the 20th. Then I will review and ask questions and finalize to send out the final to Bo on the 22nd.
Sounds good.
And then he will send out a copy to the board for approval via email on the 26th or 27th.
Can I jump in and just ask an organizational question? I can also hold it until public comment, but does the board operate, and do we communicate generally via email? Is that how correspondence takes place and how we're organized?
It is how we have typically sent communication back and forth outside of board meetings.
Okay.
And there's a Google Doc setup, which I think Cassie's already updated, as she said. And there are specific email addresses for chair, vice chair, land use, transportation, treasurer, and whatever else we want to make.
Okay, so we have a Google account where we can store documents or have a repository of information if people want to go look at it.
Like articles for a newsletter?
Well, I mean, really anything, a thread
Yes.
on any of the topics that we've talked about. I'm just
sure.
I come from a tech background and have used things like either Microsoft Teams or Slack. Slack is fantastic, and it might be something for us to consider. It's a pretty low barrier to entry if you're not familiar with it. Really easy way to organize threaded discussions across topics. Again, not, want to be where people are comfortable, but I feel like email, even finding the Zoom link, I had to go through a string of emails and find it. So there would recommend maybe we could update how we communicate and organize ourselves to make it more efficient.
Absolutely. This was just for future reference, in case you don't have anything else, this was posted on the Overlook Neighborhood website. So you could have found it there, but you'd have to know it's there. I would suggest if you want to show us what Slack looks like, because I live in Teams at work, that at the next meeting, that might be something to do.
Okay.
I would like to finish the advertising workflow. Okay, so here's the situation. I'll explain it. We started just before the pandemic. We said, we can make money helping pay for the paper production with advertising. And there's a list of, there's a business directory that was in there, and we debated back and forth about whether or not we were going to charge to be in the business directory. And then the pandemic hit and we said, no. But now we have actual advertising requests. And so we just need to make sure that we've got a plan that folks know about on how we're going to handle that. So if we get an advertising request, such as we have one now for a half-page real estate advertisement for the next 4 editions, which is huge. It'll pay for probably 2 of the 4 editions printing. So when those requests come in, the money comes to me, would be the typical way it would work. But and the information goes to Bo because you're putting it together, Bo. Although the board kind of needs to, somebody needs to at least look at the ad and say it's okay. But we'd see that at the last minute anyway. What do you think, Bo?
So I mean, I do one thing. I feel like when advertising was added to the Overlook Views, it wasn't really thought out like most newspapers do. So most newspapers, when they plan advertising for their publication, they plan the cost. So they're like, we know the paper is going to cost us X amount of money. Our payroll's this, blah, blah, blah. Here's what we're charging for ads. So the paper is already designed with certain ad spaces in mind. And so right now we're just in the Wild West of someone could pull a full page ad tomorrow. And then, you know, that's either less content or we need to increase the publication size. So I think we need to do have an approval process by the board for those ads, but also think about how many ads strategically do we actually need for the paper or to increase our bottom line with the annual budget.
Agreed.
And I'll be able to do that this time around as far as like with the redesign, kind of know what to expect. But I think if the money comes to you first, you know, I don't think we publish until it's paid for, obviously. But I do think we need to have like a deadline of them getting the ads either over to me or Cassie, which should probably line up to, well, we probably should just update our publication calendar, Cassie, like the dates when things go to issue and when then a tentative deadline, probably pre-plan out next year. And then that way advertisers know when the deadline is to submit ad space.
Yeah, agree.
I like that.
All right. So for this time around, I don't think, do you have the name of the person?
There
Have
were
you-
actually a few people who emailed who are interested. So I don't know if I should just, what I'm wondering is there a link or a form that we have for this that they can pay by that way, or should I just connect them with you?
I think for this time around, why don't you connect them with me?
Okay.
And we'll get the ad form built.
And I'll make sure to include all of the ads. And actually, does the board need to approve the ads at all, or who would approve?
I would be happy to send them around. The one thing that the one person asked Bo was what kind of copy you need. Does it need to be camera ready?
Yeah. So I'm not designing ads for anyone. If they're going to submit something, it has to be camera ready.
Okay. So Cassie, can you respond to?
Yep, I'll follow up with everyone.
Thank you.
I mean, if they need a design, they can reach out to bobrands.com. I know that guy's great with advertising.
Well played. All right. Anything else on the advertising workflow for the moment? Okay. Then what do we want to do for the next meeting? We've got the developer presentation, and Brian, are you still here?
Yes.
So can you remind us which property this is?
Yes, it's on Interstate and Going. It's, I can give you guys the exact address here. 1560 North Going Street. It is going to be a 3-story multifamily apartment complex. The access is actually going to be on Colonial. And it will stretch out. And if you see, there's kind of a homeless camp, the campers there on Interstate and Going. And in there, there's this little access that's kind of boarded up right now. And that'll be kind of this alternative access. I don't know. They're not really seeking anything unusual or any variances. The developers have agreed to present They are wanting to stay anonymous because I guess they were harassed pretty heavily after the last presentation of whatever they did. But they're doing this totally voluntarily. So yeah.
So are we allowed to say that that site is?
Yeah.
Okay, we're just not
Yeah,
gonna say
yeah.
what firm it is.
Oh, I don't even know the firm. I know the architect. I'm like going through the architect.
Gotcha. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Thank you for doing that, by the way.
Yeah, no problem.
What else do we have for the next meeting?
I have another land, well, not exactly land use, but I noticed, or someone pointed out to me a sign at 5236 North Greeley. And there's a proposal to remove it from the historic resource inventory. And I'm not sure when the sign was put up, but I think within the first 30 days of it going up, the neighborhood association and residents have the opportunity to either petition it or or have the structure moved, which is probably not likely. But are you familiar with that property, Brian?
Yeah, so it's a notice. The property's owned by Adidas. It's a house that's on the historical registry inventory. It's a low level, like a 3, which is not very high. There's not that big of protections on it. They're trying to remove it from that historical registry, which typically, I mean, they haven't disclosed any of their plans, and we did reach out for that, but it's something that I think the board should keep on their radar, because there's already been a lot of people contacting.
Brian?
I don't know about a lot, but
I do have an update because Lee reached out to the Adidas contact about that.
yeah.
So I think the response was that they are trying to change the historical record because they're wanting to sell it. And it's, I think, hard to sell a house that has that historical marking on it was the way that they replied. So that's the reason why. So I think they're trying to just sell, and there wasn't further explanation other than that because they're not planning on doing anything with it. They're just wanting to sell it.
Okay, great.
Now I wasn't aware of any action that we could take, like that 30-day that Stacy did. So I don't know if we want to do anything further, or like you said, it's like a level 3, not very protected. So I don't know if we want to do anything further, but that was their reply.
I believe the house was on the inventory when Adidas purchased it a couple of years ago. So their reasoning to want to have it removed so they could sell it doesn't make sense to me.
What's the zoning of the site?
Residential.
With R1?
I think I'll check, but I believe it might be slightly higher since it's closer to Greeley.
It's R5.
Is it R5? Yeah.
And there's 2 lots there. So if they do sell it, somebody could tear down that house and put up a very large unit there because it's 2 lots.
Yeah. I think though, everyone at this time, all they're doing is removing it from the historical inventory. There's no proposal in place to oppose. Would be my sort of suggestion to the board, is that I don't know if there is, if you can oppose the removal for a level 3, to be honest. It's usually for something a lot higher, without higher status.
Thank you. Any
What's
other?
on my radar?
Thank you. Any other large topics for the general meeting that we can use to help bring the hordes in? All right. If folks come up with something, the agenda needs to go out, Alexandra, is it 3 days ahead of time is what it's supposed to happen? I think. So it'd be the 16th. The board meeting did go out a little late. Sorry, I was out of town. Okay, the D&O insurance, this is directors and officers insurance, and the city, there was a kerfuffle as far as we were not going to, none of the North Portland neighborhood services neighborhoods would have insurance against liability issues. But they got that straightened out like just last week or last night. They discussed it, I think Doretta said. So that's taken care of. So that means that anybody who's a board member does have insurance against what they say to a degree. And I don't, none of us have ever had to use it, threatened to use it or anything, but it is there kind of like an umbrella policy for yourself. Go. Somebody else? No? Okay. We're over time, so we'll keep this quick. Board reports. I'll say on transportation that I'm still waiting to hear back from the city that Greeley, the Adidas section is done. I haven't heard it yet, so I'm still working on it. And please, everybody, remember this weekend they're putting the Blumenauer Bridge over I-84, so it will be closed between I-5 and I think I-205 is what they're doing. But I don't remember for sure, but definitely no traffic between I-5 and at least Lloyd Center. So good to avoid that this weekend. It's all weekend.
I included that in this week's newsletter if you have it in your email.
Thank you very much. Other folks with reports? That can't wait for 2 weeks?
Nothing for me.
George here. Just wanted to throw in that and it actually will occur after the general meeting, but the next PSAC meeting is going to be the 21st of October. That's the third Thursday on Zoom. And to get onto their list, you go to their website, psac.nne.pdx@gmail.com. That is psac.nne.pdx@gmail.com. And also as an aside, I sat in on a meeting that happened tonight that included to a major extent Mayor Wheeler. And that particular event on Zoom was forwarded to me by the PSAC folks. That's Public Safety Action Committee folks here in North Portland and Northeast. But it was actually coordinated initially through the Public Safety Action Coalition. And so they're the folks that Mark Wells is heading up over in the down area, Old Town, Chinatown, and whatnot there. And an additional site for them is pdxpsac@gmail.com. That's pdxpsac@gmail.com. So the differentiating thing is that they are the Public Safety Action Coalition. And so they're not under the guise of the city, which has restrictions about things that you can do of a political nature. So since they're not in that, they can endorse candidates and go more into politically hot topics if they choose to. And Mark Wells is still chairing that one, as I believe. And Akimi and Judith sat in on that, and I believe Cynthia Solaski was in there as well. So nothing new to report really. It's just they are struggling and they are trying to move forward, and they are trying to get to the point where they can move people out of unsanctioned locations, but it's going to take time. And even in tonight's news, one of the locations that they had announced for the safe rest type situation, which was down there in the neighborhood of Johnson Creek. It turns out that was a mistake. And so they kind of jumped the gun or guffawed when they did that. At least that's what I got out of it. That because it's in a floodplain and there's a bunch of other stuff that shouldn't even have been announced. So they're backstepping on that one, and it's hard telling what's going to happen next on the homeless sheltering frontier. It'll be interesting to see how it unfolds. And I think that's about it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Others?
Oh, I didn't have my camera on. Oh.
All right, public comment. Anybody from the public want to comment? All right.
Oh, well, I would just ask for a clarification. Actually, the results of the board assignments and all that are going to be on the OKNA website. And will that include contact information?
Yeah, I will update the website with these. I don't know if we have contact information for every person or only the chair, vice chair, secretary. Those four. I don't know if we have them up, but if they are up, yes, it will have the contact information.
Yeah. Well, did we put the contact information of the, okay. That's fine.
Oh.
Thank you. And then the other thing is for the board members, as far as being able to, I think, access Google Docs so that we can get access to the roster of who's on the board.
Yeah.
Will you be sending that out? I tried to get in through what I thought was my Google Docs account, and it went to nowhere.
Yeah, I can send that out.
That would be great.
But is that going to be going out to all the board members as
Yes.
well? Okay, so I'll look forward to seeing that one when it comes out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
Nat, Stacy, would you like to
Stacy, you're on mute.
take us home?
Just a quick question, Nat, what is the name of the platform that you spoke about earlier for group discussion, electronic discussion?
Slack.
Slack.
Yep, Slack. And it's, has anyone else used it before? Brian, I see nodding yes. Brad, if you're familiar with Teams, it's like Teams, but I think a little more robust, but very usable. And it basically allows folks to have a way to communicate in a centralized place as opposed to an email thread. And you can start channels, which are essentially discussion threads or topics. So each committee could have a channel. You can also, similar to a lot of social media, you can use a hashtag on a certain word or keyword and simply search for that word, and it'll bring you into any number of places that it's been mentioned. So it's a good way of keeping track of a lot of divergent topics, people, and so on. And so I think it would be, maybe it's worth a try, and we could see if it helps.
Yeah, I mean, if we can all like check it out and then talk about it at the next board meeting, I think that would be great.
Yeah, I'll take on setting up like a placeholder account that we can either discard or use, and that way I'll do a little demo maybe at the next meeting. Would that be the general meeting or at the board meeting?
Probably the board meeting.
Yeah,
the board meeting. Okay, sounds good.
And hopefully we won't go this long in the future.
Yeah,
keep this a little tight here.
Well, maybe just respecting time, since we're 15 minutes over, I want to thank you, Brad, for leading us through this, and thank all the other board members for the work that you do for our neighborhood. And thanks for being very inviting and thoughtful and helping us participate. I, for one, would really invite all advice, thoughts, questions, anything you can do to help us be more effective in our roles. And I'm very happy, Stacy, that you are here to co-chair our work together. I really appreciate you stepping up and doing that, because I know you're already doing quite a bit. So thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me and having so much confidence in me. I think it was a great meeting, and I'm excited for the next year. Thanks for
Likewise.
everybody's input.
And thank you, Alexandra and Bo, for attending. Appreciate that. And we'll be talking to both of you down the road. Some of us will.
Yes, Alexandra, if you are still there, I may reach out and ask for a coffee or a beer. Pick your poison, and let's share where the pitfalls are, what to avoid. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Brad. We wrap it up.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Have a great evening. Thank you. Cheers.
Bye.